Let's bring back Robert Horry. Let's see if that connection's a little bit better. All right, your reaction when you heard that the Knicks had fired Tom Thibodeau.
I was shocked because if you look at what Tom Thibodeau has done for that team, getting them back to the Eastern Conference Finals, having a lot of things that go on with that team, and for them to fire him in such a manner after getting to the Eastern Conference, I was just shocked because if you really think about it, and if you look at the roster of the Knicks, they overachieved to me. They were overachievers. They got a lot of guys that are role players playing very well in Thibodeau's system. So I think that's one of the things you have to look at. And sometimes people get confused. So we just beat the NBA champions. Yeah, you beat them, but you still got other teams that can play. And the Pacers, let's be honest, they coach very well and they're playing better than anybody. So I think they should have ran it back, but it's going to be hard to find someone to come in and step in his shoes, though.
Do you have to like your head coach?
I've never liked any of my head coaches. No, I'm just kidding. No, actually, it's so weird that a lot of people think you have to like your head coaches. I said, as long as the coach is doing a good job, I don't think you have to like him, but I think that has to have some type of respect there. And if the coach doesn't respect the players, I don't think the players are going to respect the coach. And I think with this day and age, the way players and coaches communicate, you should step up and have that opportunity to say, yo, coach, I don't, this is how I feel about certain situations. And I don't know anything about any of those players that they had. I don't know if anybody has the man, I won't say the balls to step in and say, yo, Tibbs, we're playing too many minutes of this. And if Tibbs will listen, but I think most of the time, I make all that fall on the assistant coaches, because assistant coaches are the ones that need to step in and grab the head coach by the ear and make them listen to them, because the assistant coaches are closer to the players than the coaches to the players.
Did you like Phil Jackson?
I love Phil Jackson. I actually loved all my coaches. I love Rudy first, then Pop and Phil was second.
But Pop likes to yell at yeah. So
but here's a funny story about Pop. Never yelled at me. He yelled at me once, and everybody looked at him. He was like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to yell at Robert." Okay, I forgot.
wait. Why is he not allowed to yell at you?
For some odd reason, there was a rumor going around that you cannot yell at me. If you yell at me, you lose me, which is not true, because you got to think about my high school coach was a yeller. Wimp Sanderson was definitely a yeller. And so I'm like, I don't mind yelling. I might tune you out, but you can yell at me.
You never wanted to fight a coach, though.
No, that's my former college teammate Spreewell. I never did anything like that. Here's the thing about in coaches. I think I've always been.
You and Spree ever get into it?
No, man. I'm the greatest guy ever, man. Everybody loves me, man. I'm the ultimate teammate. Think about this. I sacrificed more than any player in the world for his team to win. Even in college, I let Spree and James do their thing. I got to the Rockets. I let Dream do his thing. Then get to Lakers, Kobe and Shaq do your thing. I sacrificed for you guys, because at the end of the day, it's about winning. It's about winning.
How many plays were run specifically for you in your career?
I only had plays run for me when I was with the Rockets. Once I got to, I think it was one time when I was in a Laker uniform, I had plays ran for me. That was when I set a record for most threes made consecutively in a game. And I was hot, so they ran some plays for me then. And I was ran by, I think Dale Harris was the coach then. Maybe, yeah, that's the only time and the last time. Pop never ran plays for me. Even when I was hot in 2005 in that finals, he didn't run plays for me then. I'm like, hey, because I'm the ultimate sacrifice, man. The most important thing is winning. And I never cared about my stats. It's about getting that dub.
How upset was Hakeem when David Robinson won the league MVP?
He was beyond upset. And it's weird because Dream is not a big talker. And when he said, "That's my trophy," back then, and he came out and pulled out some moves on David Robinson that I'd never seen before, it was amazing.
That Dream shake?
You think about the footwork and his ability to get guys to be in a popcorn machine and get them off their feet. He was just fantastic, man. One of the greatest players I ever played with.
Didn't he smack Vernon Maxwell? Did he smack Vernon?
That happened a year before I got
here. Okay.
So, I'm that calm that comes in and calms everybody down. So there was no smacking of people then.
Would Kobe be able to play, and obviously with the talent, but he was kind of a bully. Like you had, like Michael Jordan, like you got to keep
Uh-huh.
up with me. Would that
Yeah.
work in today's NBA with these players?
I think it would because you think about it. If you come to a team and this is how it's done, you kind of fall into that mold and the culture. You might have a couple of guys that might not fall in line, but if you winning, that's the bottom line. And you think about it, you look at all the cultures that you have that are created on each team. You think about the OKC culture, how they're like, oh, we're gonna have each other's back regardless. You think about the Indiana's culture, we're gonna play team. Nobody's bigger than the A, B, C, or D. And you think about the culture in New York, also, it's only these six guys are gonna play, and that's it. I think you adapt to it. And I think a lot of guys, when you come in the organization that let you be a little bit more free, that's when you're not able to adapt because this is all you know, and you have blinders on and say, "Oh, we didn't do this here, we didn't do this there." So I think they'll be fine, especially when you Kobe. He's a leader. He's going to make you, follow toe. So I think he'll be fine.
You think he could have gotten 100 points in a game?
No, no. I think 81 was just stretching. 100 points because it get to a point where you got to miss some shots and guys get jealous. Like, yo, man, I know you scoring them, but let me get some love too. But I don't think he would have been if it went into overtime. He probably could have.
Yeah, but you don't want to interrupt his flow. If he's got like 70 something, you don't go, "Hey, come on, how about I get a shot or something?"
Well, no, but after a while, you think, if I'm the coach, that's a historical thing that's about to happen, right? It ain't happening on my watch. We're gonna triple team him. As soon as you're gonna have some guy face guard him. Don't let him catch. So think nobody ever wants to have a historical mark like that set on them because you can be like in a trivia question, who was the head coach that
Yeah.
allowed Kobe Bryant to have 100 points? So yeah.
Robert Horry, Lakers analyst for Spectrum Sportsnet, 7-time NBA champ. All right. What would you do if you're the Lakers in the offseason? What's the one thing that has to happen?
They of course they got to get some size. I think that's the biggest key. They got to get some size, and then they got to get some people behind that bench to grab JJ and say, "Yo, this ain't working." And I think a lot of times we look at the head coach and we blame him for some things, and we blame the players for things. But always blame the assistant coaches because assistant coaches need to have the coach's ear, and they see things that the head coach don't see sometimes, and like, "Yo, this ain't working. We need to do this and that." And I think that's the main key. I love the coaching staff that they have, but is JJ willing to, listen to his staff and trust his staff? Because sometimes when you come in as a new coach, you say, "Oh, I got to do it my way. I got to do it this way because I'm the head coach. I need to do this." And I think sometimes it takes a village, instead of, a guy saying, "Oh, I need to do this way because my head is on the line."
Yeah, but how should Luka take that? Hey, you're fat, you're overweight. Like, and people now say this openly, as
Yeah,
opposed to maybe somebody said it to him privately. And I don't know him, but
me either.
I don't know what would motivate him because it feels like people are embarrassing him by saying this.
Yeah, and it's so weird that people talk about his weight, but yet he's still giving people 30 points. I tell people I don't care about his weight. You need to get him in a gym and teach him how to play defense. That's the thing, because you can give someone 40 points, but if you're giving up 35 on the other end, those 40 points don't mean anything.
Wait, you
And I
think
think
that you could make Luka a good defensive player?
yes, you can, because it's about wanting to. He's never had to because he's always had people behind him to erase his mistakes. You think about now there was no AD, no center, nobody erases mistakes in LA. He getting blown by, they getting layups.
Yeah.
If you watch stretches of games where Luka just stayed in front because he's a big body. The defenders, the offensive players are bouncing off him. You just stay in front. And I think that is the key. And I think also he needs to want to play defense because so many times he saves his energy for the offensive end. I tell people all the time, if you can move your feet and get past and blow by people, that means you have some fast twitch muscles. You can move pretty fast. So there's no reason you cannot play better defense on the other end. It's just you just gotta want to. And I think a lot of times he doesn't want to. He'd rather just point.
Okay, that means that you think Karl-Anthony Towns could be an adequate defender.
I think with Carl, people always talk about Luka's in shape. If you look at Carl, I think he could get in better shape. He's very top heavy, and I think he could get in better shape, and he can, even though he has some big dogs, I think he wears like what size 21 shoe, but I think he can move his feet because if you watch him offensive, he can move fast. You just gotta want to. And Karl-Anthony's problem is he does a lot of silly fouls.
Yeah.
And he when he sets a screen, he puts his hip out and things like that. He just has to learn how to, curtail those fouls and be more streamlined with his movements and just be smarter. So I think he'll be fine defensively.
OKC's style,
Yeah.
like they lead with defense.
Yes.
Do you believe that defense still wins championships in the NBA?
Of course. And the thing why if OKC wins this, it's going to, negate all those people who go out and be like, oh, threes are the way to win. That's not Shai Gilgeous' game. He will do a three every now and then, but it's about getting buckets. And Shai Gilgeous knows how to get buckets. That's either from the mid-range or from the free throw line. But on the flip side, you think about what Hartenstein and Caruso and, to me, one of the best defensive players in the game, Lou Dort, are doing for that team is amazing. And if you go back at the history of the NBA, even you go back to the Splash Brothers and the way they shot threes, they were top 5 defensively. And so people sometimes forget, like, oh, they get mesmerized by the offense, but these teams are also good defensively, and they can lock you down. The Jalen Williams, they're very good. And if you look at this team, there's usually somebody on the team that's bad defensively. There's no one on OKC that's bad defensively.
What are the posters behind you over your right shoulder?
Those are posters of I had a guy that did a painting of every championship I had, and what it is it's a moment from each game. It's kind of homage to me. So I hate to say it.
All
it's
right.
homage to me.
I thought it was other players you played against. Those are all you. Okay.
Yeah, it's 2 Rockets, 3 Lakers, and 2 Spurs, and it's like it's a 3-point shot, and each one has a part of. I can walk over there and let you see them if you like, but so
if you can, I know you got time constraints here, so
yeah.
All right, you're gonna
So it's kind of I got a guy named Opie Oderstad that I've been knowing for since I got in the NBA. So this is like Knicks finals, Orlando's finals, Pacers finals, of course, Sixers, New Jersey Pistons, and then Cleveland. And each one has like the most famous shot I made against Lakers. He does this thing called ghosting, where you can put like a little ghosting thing in it. So it's just me.
Hey, you earned it. I like that you lost track of one of the matchups there. You've won so many championships, like, New Jersey. Yeah, that was New Jersey.
Yeah. You always forget about the people you sweep. Like, that team that had Penny and Shaq. I forget the name of that team.
Wow. Hey, great to talk to you again, as always, Robert.
Great to talk to you too, man. I appreciate you, man.
That's Robert Horry joining us courtesy of Bet Online. I thought he had like great players that he played against or with. And
you're right, though. Good for you, man. You earned that,
Check out Bet Online for updated NBA Finals Series MVP odds, as well as game-by-game lines and props. Take a break. We'll be back after this.